Welcome to the Teachers E-Symposium 2020, organized by Oxford University Press, Pakistan. The title of this session is Inquiry-Based Learning, Geography, History and Computing. I'm your facilitator, Tooba Malik. Before we begin the session, let me introduce myself. I'm currently working as an academic coordinator at Oxford University Press, Pakistan. I have a degree in business administration with a bachelor's in science. I have been associated with the field of education for the last 15 years. Let's take a look at the session outcomes. We'll talk about the subjects at school, the different subjects that we teach, inquiry-based learning, and how to engage, motivate, and manage inquiry-based learning in school. Then we'll talk a little bit about project-based differentiated outcomes. And then we'll move on to history, geography, and computing. Roger Saljo is a Swedish educational psychologist whose research presents a socio-cultural perspective on human learning and development. He interviewed 90 people about their approaches to learning, and he found that there were important differences on how people saw their own learning. Their replies he classified into 5 main categories. The first one is learning brings about an increase in knowledge, that is knowing a lot, or a quantitative increase in knowledge. The second category is learning is retention, storing information for easy recall. The third category is learning is about developing skills and methods and acquiring facts that can be used as necessary. If we relate this to the school subjects hierarchy of learning, we find that these categories contribute to surface learning or reproduction of the concept or content taught. Category 4. Learning is about making sense of information, extracting meaning, and relating information to everyday life. Category 5. Learning is about understanding the world through reinterpreting knowledge, assimilation, and accommodation of new information. If we relate this to the school subjects hierarchy of learning, we find that they contribute towards a deeper approach of learning. Saljo found that the more life experiences students have, the more likely they are to view learning as an internal, experience-based process, as in categories 4 and 5, rather than as an external process, as in categories 1 through 3. Let's take a look at the defining features of approaches to learning. We talked about the deep approach, where the intention is to understand ideas for yourself. And we transform by relating ideas to previous knowledge and experience. We look for patterns and underlying principles. We check evidence and relate it to conclusions. We examine logic and argument cautiously and critically. We become actively interested in the course content. Whereas in the surface approach, where the intention is to cope with the course requirements, we reproduce by studying without reflecting on either purpose or strategy. We treat the course as unrelated bits of knowledge. We memorize facts and procedures routinely. We find difficulty in making sense of new ideas presented. And we feel undue pressure and worry about work. Do you know what a KWL chart is? Do you use it in your class? This is how a KWL chart looks like. In the first column, the students write down what they know about the topic. In the second column, they write down what they would like to know about the topic. And in the third column, they write down what they've learned. In inquiry-based learning or research-based learning, students carry out research that enables them to engage actively and creatively with questions and problems, often in collaboration with other students or with staff. As part of this approach, this particular graphic organizer KWL chart is used to get students asking questions about the topic they are going to study. KWL charts activate schemata and should arouse curiosity. They have to be carefully modeled at the outset by the teacher in open class, and attention has to be paid to the language needs. That is, question forms, note-taking strategies, etc., depending on the level. These charts are a great resource and get teachers to think in a more student-centered way of learning. How often would you use these in your classrooms? Every lesson? I have used these KWL charts in my classes at the beginning, sometimes during the middle of the lesson, and towards the end of the lesson. The first column, K, activates prior knowledge about the topic in students. The second column, W, helps them to share unit objectives. And the third column, L, monitors their learning. You can ask the students to use the KWL chart in pairs or in groups. Say, for example, what I know about computing. Everyone here has a mobile phone. Most people have a laptop or a tablet. We need them to communicate for services like ordering food, shopping, even driving. WhatsApp and Waze are apps. Now, these are some example responses that you might get when you ask students about what they know about computing. In the second column, the students would write down what I would like to know. So if the topic is computing, they could ask what is an app, when did people first start using laptops, mobile phones, or iPads, where did they start using them, what did they use them for, why were they invented, and so on. Let's take a look at this video and learn about the benefits of inquiry-based learning.
Curiosity is a fundamental human trait, and inquiry-based learning embraces this natural impulse to learn and think. There are many benefits to implementing RBL programs, and some of the most successful education systems, like Shanghai, Hong Kong and Finland, regard RBL as an important component of their success. This video aims to briefly outline some of the major benefits directly attributed to inquiry-based learning. RBL is not just about asking questions, it is questioning into something. In other words, it is about digging deeper in an effort to uncover what you have not been able to see before. When you begin an inquiry, you are deliberately setting out to search for what you don't know. It is this process of trying to figure out an answer that contributes to the student's sense of excitement and energy, often referred to as engagement and motivation. IBL is not so much about seeking the right answer, but about developing inquiring minds. The research shows that when students construct their own knowledge and understand the relevance to their lives, their attitudes and understanding improve. In an RBL classroom, students are not waiting for the teacher or someone else to provide an answer. Instead, they are asking their own questions, formulating hypotheses, designing investigations, interpreting, communicating, collaborating, asking new questions, and reflecting. These process skills are gradually developed with the support of the teacher who helps guide the learning process. Based on the student's prior knowledge, the teacher lays a foundation in which students can begin to take more responsibility for their own learning. Students quickly learn how to participate in the inquiry learning cycle and gradually move from structured to guided and eventually open inquiry. When students have the opportunity to cultivate their own skills and construct their own ideas and concepts, then they can develop an understanding of the world that is deep and real, and begin to enjoy, understand, predict, and generate new knowledge on their own. During this process, students develop a deeper understanding of the content and concepts due to the higher order thinking that is required. Learning through inquiry continually provides students with the opportunity to make first-hand decisions. They can decide which questions to raise at various points, which ones to follow in depth and why, what tools to use for various tasks, how to organize the data, how to present the data, and what conclusions to accept or reject. When a unit of inquiry has been well thought out, the very nature of the learning process challenges students to think at higher levels. The higher order thinking skills that students acquire during the inquiry process assist in developing independent problem-solving and critical thinking skills. As students further develop their critical thinking skills, they become more adept at creatively applying knowledge that they have learnt to other disciplines and situations. In an IBL classroom, students communicate in various ways, from interacting with their peers and teachers to writing a reflection or presenting their solutions. By engaging in the learning activities, students provide a window for teachers to closely observe each individual's level of learning. This enables the teacher to assess the student's knowledge regularly and ensure that they are on the right track. IBL also involves students working in pairs or groups. They communicate their thoughts and ideas, and through cooperative learning, they are able to develop a deeper understanding of the subject. The collaborative nature of the students' interactions also contributes to their social development and helps improve their interpersonal skills. The IBL process teaches students the skills to become lifelong learners and supports them in their quest for knowledge. Let's have a look at the many valuable learning outcomes of IBL.
So, how do we engage students in productive group work in class? This is an example of 8 groups of 4 each with roles established in each group. The roles are that of a group leader, timekeeper, note taker, and reporter. The group leader clarifies the aims of the group. The group leader makes sure that all group members understand the concepts and the group's conclusions. He or she starts the meetings, introduces each topic, and keeps the group on task and oriented towards its goals. He or she also ensures that the group completes their tasks before deadlines. The timekeeper. The timekeeper takes notes during meetings to keep a record of what has been decided, tasks that have been assigned, when meetings are scheduled, etc. He or she keeps track of time during meetings to avoid spending excessive time on one topic. Then there's the note taker, who summarizes discussions and decisions for the rest of the group. He or she distributes a summary of each meeting to all group members, also presents group material to the rest of the class or the supervisor. Then there's the reporter, who serves as a group's spokesperson to the class or instructor, summarizing the group's activities and conclusions. This shows you how space can be created by separating groups of 4. So you ask the students to arrange themselves in this way, and the task should be given out once 3 small corridors have been established. You can see scanned pages from 2 different books and will notice that the learning strands are repeated. The same 6 learning strands are repeated in each book so that in each year group, all learning strands are revisited at a higher level of achievement in what we call an ascending learning cycle, building confidence and ability as learners progress through the course. This is a scan from the history book level 3, where students learn about writing and writing tools, printing, staying in touch in a lesson called A History of Communication. This is a scan from the geography book level 3, where students learn about keeping in touch, electronic mail or email, and daily journeys in a lesson Keeping in Touch with the World. This is the unit structure from Oxford International Primary History, and the unit is a history of communication. As you can see, the learning objectives of this unit are mentioned, the key vocabulary is given, and there are discussion points. The students have been asked to look at different methods of communication and name each method. They've also been asked to write down the methods in the order in which they think they were first used. Given at the bottom of the page is the timeline for the students to understand the history of communication. This is the complete unit structure of a history of communication from Oxford International Primary History. As you can see, the students first learn about writing and writing tools, then printing, staying in touch, telecommunication, and then they move on to mass communication. This is an activities page with glossary words and differentiated challenges, and the hands-on activities are there for individuals as well as groups to develop their scientific skills. The Did You Know section contains amazing facts to keep the students interested. In this unit, Keeping in Touch with the World, the students, after learning about letters and postcards, have been tasked in the activities to work in groups and collect old postcards. They also have to collect stamps and then compare them with each other to understand how they relate to their country. This is a scan from the book showing you the Did You Know section of electronic email, where the students have been told about an American computer programmer called Raymond Tomlinson who sent the world's first ever email message to himself in 1971. So, for example, you can see how the control the computer strand progresses from level 1. Here we can see the control the computer, that is the programming, learning strand from each level in Oxford International Primary Computing, and exactly what is being taught in each. We know that language support is a major challenge in teaching computing. Let's look now at how we can support you with language in Oxford International Primary Computing. The teacher's guide lists the key terms for the whole of this unit. These are introduced to our learners in a word cloud on the unit opening page, which you can see at the bottom of the page, or in relevant lessons throughout the unit. In terms of the word cloud, you may choose to teach this vocabulary to learners now using the glossary at the back of the book, or add it to a classroom word wall or similar and elicit the meaning as the words appear throughout the project. As I'm sure you're aware, there are several ways of differentiating. You can choose to differentiate by outcome, that is, all learners do the same activity but produce very different outcomes. You can differentiate by task, that is, learners do different tasks depending on their ability. Or you can differentiate by support, that is, you will alter the way you scaffold the activity for different learners. In Oxford International Primary Computing, we provide support for differentiation by project outcomes. So we look at what most students can do and then also what students needing support and more able students can do. This means that all learners essentially do the same activity, but they reach different stages along this activity journey. This makes for a cohesive and purposeful classroom with everyone working on the same task but at their own level. It hopefully also means that you can focus your energies on providing support and stretch where it is most required. On this page from the teacher's guide, you can see how we have clearly marked the differentiation by project outcomes at the beginning of the unit. And by lesson. For example, in lesson 4.1a, we can see how we are going to differentiate by lesson outcome. Rest assured, you're well supported with assessment in Oxford International Primary Computing. The final pages of each unit include resources you can use to review students' learning and collect evidence of progress. Here you can see the end of unit assessment for Control the Computer making a maths quiz. The teacher's guide provides assessment support for every single unit. On the screen you can see that it also explains that you can record your observations in the achievement record, which I will show you on the next slide. This is the achievement record for the whole unit, Control the Computer. And you'll remember back to the learning objectives for this unit from earlier. This record gives both an at-a-glance update of where you are up to in your teaching and also allows you to keep track of the progress of all of your learners individually. How to make your program keep score. Show students how to add a command to the script so that when they give the right answer to a question, the score goes up by 1. Explain that they must add this command to every script in their program. These are some activities from Oxford International Primary Geography. The tasks in these activity boxes are meant to develop collaborative skills and analytical skills in students. These tasks are from Oxford International Primary History. We talked about them a few slides back, but these sum up what is there in Oxford International Primary History for the students to develop their skills in this subject. Oxford International Primary Computing focuses on key computing skills such as working with text and data, image editing, logic and programming. Projects include using Scratch, which is a block-based virtual programming language and website, targeted primarily at children aged 8 all the way to 16, and it helps them to learn code. Learners of this program can create online projects using a block-like interface, like the one that you can see on your screens now. This is the URL link for accessing Oxford International Primary Computing resources. You can download all the project files, resources, worksheets, sample materials, and review all the activities you need for each stage of Oxford International Primary Computing. Let me share a few screenshots from the files that I downloaded from global.oup.com for Oxford International Primary Computing. This is a worksheet on the parts of a computer. Then you've got what you have learned about controlling the computer review activity sheet. Also included in the file were scratch samples for students to work on. Oxford University Press has developed a suite of inquiry-based resources for the following subjects: English, Maths, Science, Computing, Geography, and the newly published Oxford International Primary History. This suite helps to develop independent and critical thinking skills, provides integrated differentiation and assessment resources to ensure progress. It is fully supported by professional development, which can be tailored to your school's needs. If you would like some more information, please log on to oxforduniversitypress.global.com and you can get all the information that you need about these resources there. There is plenty of information about the Oxford International Primary Suite, and you can also find support tools such as curriculum matching charts and course guides. If you have any queries, please feel free to contact your local educational consultant. You can find the details by visiting the web address given on the screen. Oxford University Press offers online professional development training for those of you who are interested in improving your skills to better meet the needs of your students. Right in front of you is the URL link to Introduction to Inquiry-Based Teaching and Learning on an online platform called BrainShark. After you complete this training, you will also get an e-certificate to validate it. This is the link for Oxford International Primary Computing training session on BrainShark, which is called Getting Started with Oxford International Primary Computing. There are similar sessions for other subjects like English, Math, Science on the same platform, BrainShark. All you have to do is register your details, enter your username and password, and you can attend the training session. And you will, like I already said, get an e-certificate for it.